The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? But did you know that the rich people use debt to make even more money? And it's true. Let's talk about this. But before we do, hit the subscribe and click the notification bell. Hi, my name is Zack Boothe, and I was once a window cleaner, but now I'm a pretty wealthy guy, and all because of real estate investing. By the way, how do you manage your debt? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Debt is stereotyped as being a bad thing or something that people do when they are living beyond their means. But the reality is that borrowing isn't always a bad thing. In fact, the data from the Federal Reserve shows that rich people actually end up borrowing a lot more money than the country's lowest earners. The top 1% of the population actually holds a whopping 46% of all the debt, while the bottom 50% of the country has only 36% of all the outstanding debt. Here's how you can use debt to make more cash. The first one may surprise you, but starting a business. There's a certain business like real estate where taking on debts is the best option. Real estate is one of the most common ways people use debt to grow their wealth. Wealthy people invest time and resources into understanding which business ventures will benefit them the most. When I wanted to get out of window cleaning and go full-time into real estate investing, there was a few things that I did to actually use debt to become successful. I actually pitched that I wanted to flip a house to a lot of my wealthy window cleaning clients. I ended up flipping my very first house using private money from one of the guys that I met. His name was Steve Young, not the football player, but he gave me money to flip a house. I didn't make any money. I actually lost money on the flip, but my investor, Steve, got all of his returns and everything that I had promised he would make. It was a good experience, and I learned that flipping houses sucked, and I learned that I needed to do something different. I learned that I wanted to get into real estate wholesaling, which is what I teach, right? Which is one of my main strategies still to this day, even though I flip a lot of houses. I needed to be able to find properties at a massive discount with real estate wholesaling. And plus I needed to learn how to do real estate wholesaling. So I actually got quite a bit of credit card debt, not all of it, but quite a bit of credit card debt to hire a mentor, to hire a coach, to teach me how to do this stuff. On top of that, I had to spend money on marketing to find these sellers, right? And so I got some credit cards to be able to get started. So those were some of the ways in the beginning that I leveraged debt to be able to grow and to learn. Most people just get debt and get credit card debt to buy things like clothing or cars or, personal consumption of, stuff that's really not going to propel you forward and help you make more money in the long term. And I really think that's one of the biggest differences between the wealthy, right? The top 1% have 50% of the debt out there because they're leveraging debt to make money, and they're qualified to get even more debt because they're paying it back because the debt they got made them money, and so they can pay it back. So the banks will give them even more money. So I think it's very important to understand that leveraging debt is not always the worst thing in the world, and not every investment you're going to make is not going to work out. It's true for me. The first mentor I hired was not a good mentor, even though my second one was, and I had to pay off a lot of that credit card debt from window cleaning money that I made and from hustling and selling stuff and building pine furniture to pay it off. But it's one of the ways that I use debt to get started. Another strategy is to use refinancing to your advantage. Real estate debt is the best kind of debt because there are a lot of loopholes. You might not know this, but if you're paying rent, you're actually paying extra in taxes. By borrowing money, investors can use real estate as a positive cash flow asset. So currently I'm refinancing one of my properties in Tampa, Florida, and I'm going to amortize that loan over 30 years, right? And over those 30 years, I can write off what's called depreciation. I can show that for 27 and a half years, a majority of what I bought that property for and what I paid to remodel that property will be written off as an expense. On top of that, the interest that I pay on the loan will be written off. But the best part is the tenant's gonna pay all of that money. But I got it at such a good price when I purchased it, and then I remodeled it, and then I put tenants in this duplex, and now it's worth way more than what I bought it and paid and invested into the property already. So I'm actually gonna pull out nearly another $50,000 on top of what I owed on it and what I bought it for and what I put into it. So now I'm gonna have an additional tax-free $50,000 to reinvest and let that money snowball. And even by getting that extra $50,000 out of the deal, the tenants pay for all the property management, all the expenses, and the property's payments, and then some. I make an additional $400 a month on top of everything else being paid by the tenants. So for me, the tax benefits, the money I pulled out of the refinance, and everything else that comes with it, it's a no-brainer. Rich people also leverage their investment. If this has surprised you, hit that like button and get ready for the last thing you should know. A typical person puts their money into an investment portfolio to grow over time. But taking advantage of leverage means using debt in your portfolio to make more money in the long run. Even though this involves more risk, this strategy is widely used by investors for long-term gains, such as hedge funds. If all I ever did was buy houses with cash, right? It would take me forever really to save up the money to buy the house. So I would never really own a house. So by the time I had the cash to own the house, the price of that house would go way up because of inflation, right? And so it's why Robert Kiyosaki talks about how savings for losers. But if I could go and buy a house for 5% or 25% down, I'll get a house much sooner. And there's loans and mortgages that are set up for you to make very small payments over a long period of time. And those interest rates are so low that it's barely above the inflation rate. So if you calculate the inflation rate of the value of the house going up in comparison to the interest rate, on top of the tax benefits of depreciating out the asset, you are actually getting paid to buy the house, right? If you have a tenant in place, it does not make sense to buy the house cash. It does not. It makes way more sense to buy it leveraged. Mathematically, it is a terrible idea to buy houses cash. Even though I own 4 houses cash, I know it's not the best strategy, right? And it's because it goes with my risk tolerance. But leveraging debt and using the low interest rates that are available for investing into real estate is truly the only way to do it, and to do it at a very, very profitable rate. Wealthy people use debt to start businesses, they refinance their debt, they leverage their investments, but you can do this too. Debt can be a powerful tool if you know how to use it. You just learned how to get richer by debt and how to develop a wealthy mindset. Real estate investing is a great place to start. Book a call with me by clicking on the link in the video description to learn about my Drive for Dollars Mastery Program. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can receive updates about our future videos.